Amy with Bella Body Pilates and Barre, and welcome. This is a tutorial for you to understand pelvic alignment and shoulder roll back. Very important in any activity that you do, whether you're doing HIIT, you're running, you're walking, or Pilates, which is based off of Pilates. So I want you to get feet hip width apart. Now wear different color socks so you can actually see my alignment, and that way you can understand what I'm talking about, right and left. So feet are going to be hip width apart, toes in line with the knee in line with the hip. Now let's say you're feeling a little pressure with your knees. Turn your toes in with those inner thighs, not the knees. Turn them in. Let's say, whoa, that's too much on the outer knee. So rotate at the hip socket, squeeze the glutes, turn the toes out to the side. So you may be a little bit turned in, you may be a little bit turned out, or you might be straight in front, wherever there's no pressure on the knees. Now you're going to soften those knees. Just sit down into the heels. That means the shoulders are in line with the hips. So ears, shoulders, rib cage, hip bone, knees are bent, and everything is in line with the heels. And always lift out of the floor. You want an angular alignment in between your chin. Now I'm going to keep my hands right here. I'm going to put my fingers on the pubic bone. Heels of the hand on the hip bones. And if it doesn't make it there, that's fine. So what it is, the pubic bone is going to be lifted up with the bones in between the hip sockets. That's what I'm going to call hip bone abs. And what you're going to do is you're going to lift, taking the tailbone down and light release, but not fully releasing into the back. So think about your cereal bowl. You don't want the milk spilling out forwards, and you don't want it spilling out behind you. Because what happens, and I did this for years, I took my pubic bone down to the floor, I took my lower back up to the ceiling, and I had constant back pain. So lifting out of the floor, I had to learn to lift out of the floor with my legs to connect to my pelvis in the core, because the core is the center, it's connected to the pelvis. And this is just stronger muscle, all these back muscles that tend to get really tight. So we're still holding the fingers at the pubic bone, heels and hands and hip bone, and I'm going to do this wrong. Look at that, my chest line still be forward, my pubic bone down, my tailbone is where the wall meets the floor. Inhale, lift up with the abs in between. It's not a cheeky squeeze. It's not a tug. It's a tilt of the pelvis, lift, and down. Every time you lift, do a Kegel, squeeze that pelvic floor, and a light release. Stretch out the back. Feel your hip bone abs, lift, and down. I'm going to really do it big so you can really see the difference. And down, really big. We don't want any pain. You're pressing your heels and lifting out of the floor, pulling your rib away from your hip and growing tall. Now, right here, my tailbone is down, my pubic bone is forwards, and I can feel those hip bone abs lifting up to my chin. So rewind this, practice what I just informed you about. Very important, so everything doesn't fall out later. Next. And this is one that a lot of people have problems with because we want to take our shoulders forwards and we release the pelvis. Now that your pelvis is in line, bend the knees. You're going to lift the rib away from the hip, stretch it out, and the core stabilizes. Because what's in between here? Muscles, organs, and one major bone, your spine. We've got to support our spine by strengthening the core and strengthening the back. And that's the beauty of Pilates, and which incorporates in every workout that I teach, because I teach booty bar, Pilatesing, and mat Pilates. Press the toes to the inner thigh. Toes in between the quad and the hamstrings, and the pinky toe presses and lifts to the outer thighs into the glutes. Pull the rib away from the hip. Now what happens, people pull their shoulders up to their ear. So once we establish here, and we're not thrusting our chest forward and our tailbone back, keeping a bend in the knee. So you're not walking around like this and you're not hyperextending. Hyperextension hurts. I used to do that for years. Soften the knees, just a little soft. Not a hyper, not a bend. Just relax it and feel the glutes capture with the back of the legs, the quads, wrapping the back of the legs to the front of the legs to the inner thighs. Establish those muscles. They're there to help support your frame. Now, pull the shoulder blades down. So bring your fingers right here. Bring your hip bone up, your rib cage down. And see how my chest lifts, and I'm kind of coming forwards, but my head might still be up. I'm putting too much pressure on my back. So pull the rib away from the hip. It's like toothpicks. You don't want to break them. It's going to hurt. Lift it away. That way you strengthen and pull the rib away from the hip. There's muscles that pull from here to here, and those are rotation muscles, which will be another video. I just want you to understand to lift. Knees are sunk, shake, shake. Now shoulder blades. You should never see your shoulder joint forward, pushing your heart back and your neck taking all the breath. Your neck doesn't have to hold your head. Now pull your shoulder blade into the socket. So my hands are going to come forwards, and I'm going to overdo it, pull it back, and I'm over-resting the chest. We don't want our shoulders, hands coming forwards, and we don't want our hands going back. Think about when you're carrying luggage to the airport, and I see this all the time. People's arms are completely straight. They're pulling at their shoulder joint instead of using their muscles and bringing that wheeled luggage right by them. Now roll it back and forth. Through the breath. And watch my hands. I'm going to make it smaller and smaller. So go big. Find where it's like, oh, that's too much. That hurts. Because we don't want any pain when we get to the final result. You can't see this. Shoulder in line with the ear. Pull up to the ear. Roll it in the socket and pull down. Right here between where the rib on the back to the rib in the front, there is an armpit muscle. So think about when you're putting your deodorant on, pulling your shoulder blade down, down, down. See it right here, down, down. That's what instigates the back muscle, armpit muscle. We call that angry armpit muscle, because when somebody comes over and touches it, like a massage therapist, it's like, ah! It's several muscles connected right here, deep underneath. So your shoulder blades roll up, set down into the scapula. Scapula is the bones right behind here. So I'm going to go from the back now. Pull the shoulder blades down to where the rib is starting and the shoulders stop. Take it forwards, take it back. Now your chest is not doing any action, but you should feel abdominal pressure when you come forwards and pull down. So feel free to turn to the other side, so that way your neck, if you're the same way as me, you can turn to this side and start working back and forth. But this I'm going to do from the back end. You're going to take your arms out. Take your shoulders forwards. Now see how I'm rounded in the spine. My neck is still crunched back. I'm looking forwards. And I pull my shoulder blades back around the socket and set those shoulder bones down into the rib cage. And that's a push-up muscle, broad line muscle. I'm taking it forward. See how my palms are now forwards. Rotate, pull back. My palms are down, or I prefer second position. Pull it down, down, down. So you want to reach the fingers away. Pull the shoulder blades into the sockets as your fingers reach away. Pull your shoulder blades towards each other and down. That's a lot of work to do to establish. I'm going to do that from the front. I'm going to hunch over. Look. Get out of that neck. Roll through the socket. Reach the fingers away. Not through the wrist, through the fingers. Pull the shoulder blades into the socket. Down, back to the hips. Relax the neck and pull the shoulder blades towards each other. You're going to power through the back. Push pressure into your abs, into the spine, and go, whoa, the abs tight. So I want you to watch right here. Pretty crazy, isn't it? One more. And pull down. Right here, guys. Tailbone down. Shoulders in line with the hips. The hardest thing to do is to stand. We want to do big actions, make big swings, whether you're lifting weights, whether you're doing big hit, where you're doing into your burpee. Your core is what connects you to your extremities. And if your extremities are reaching out and you're hyperextending, you're not allowing your core to turn on. You've also got to do your breath. Inhale through the nose and exhale out of the mouth. Last thing. Rib cage. The breath. Open up your rib cage to the side of the rib. You can have your hands on the hip bones to keep your shoulders down and your hips from moving. You're going to open up your rib cage like an umbrella. And then use those rib cage abs. Bring it back together. Let's say you had children or you've had a lot of weight gain and you've lost weight and you've got that hole right here and it can be felt. You can bring those abs back together with this breathing exercise. Inhale, I have nice flail rib cage. Now watch them. Pulling them back in. Watch my belly button. Inhale, open up, pull the shoulder blades down. It's not about coming here. You can keep your hands on your shoulder blades. Open the rib cage to the side of the rib with a big inhale. Exhale, bring it back with those abs right at the rib cage. And you can make this as big or as small. Excellent. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, drop a note below. Take it easy.